Hello class, welcome to Pre-Algebra Lesson 9-6, which is all about powers of monomials. By the end of this lesson, you should be able to find the power of a power and find the power of a product. So let's start first with what a power of a power is. So a power of a power is when an exponent is raised to another exponent. And then when that happens, all you do is you multiply the two exponents together. So if you look at this one right here, we have 2 raised to the 4th power, and that's inside some parentheses. And then right outside of the parentheses, you see we have a 3rd power. So since this is a power, and then there's nothing between these two things except a parentheses, there's no other like big number, right? The base. Remember the big number is called the base number. There's not another base, and when this happens, you multiply your exponents together. So this would become 2 raised to the 4 times 3 power, or 2 to the 12th power. Okay, so that is how you would solve a power of a power. And if you typed that into a calculator, you would know that that's 4,096. Okay, so that would be your final answer there. All right, then let's look at a couple more examples. So we have 9 raised to the 6th power raised to the 2nd power. Okay, so this becomes 9 raised to the 6th times 2, or 9 to the 6 times 2 is 12. A really common mistake I see people do is they add these, because earlier this chapter we looked at something similar but just a little different. We looked at something where maybe it looked like this. That would be 9 to the 8th power. Do you see how the 9, that base number, repeated in this example? That's when you add. But in the new example that we're working with today, that 9 doesn't repeat, that base number doesn't repeat. So you multiply your exponents. So then you'd have 9 raised to the 12th power, which is a very large number that if you type it in your calculator is going to give you an answer in written in scientific notation. Okay, so you can just leave that as 9 to the 12th power. Then if I look here, n only appears once, so I'm going to multiply my two exponents together. So I'm going to say n to the 7 times 12, or 7 times 12 is 84. So my answer would be n to the 84th power. And that would be my final answer. Sorry, I kind of spaced those out strangely. I'm not at school right now doing this. I'm using the little tablet I have at home, and I can't always see where I'm writing. So then I have 2 raised to the 3rd power raised to the negative 4th power. So again, I'm just going to multiply. Even though there's a positive and a negative, it works just the same. So this would become 2 to the negative 12th power, because a positive times negative is negative, and 3 times 4 is 12. Now the difference is I don't want you to write answers with negative exponents. So you're going to draw on the lessons that we already did this chapter, and this would become 1 over 2 to the 12th power. 1 over 2 to the 12th power. And on the last page, we talked about how 2 to the 12th power is 4,096. So my final answer would be 1 over 4,096. Okay, if you have any questions about that, please don't hesitate to ask for some help. Let's talk about the second rule. This second rule is called the power of a product. Okay, so when a product, so something that's being multiplied together, in this case, my product is 2x to the 4th. So when a product is raised to a power, so this entire thing is being raised to the 3rd power, you distribute the exponent to each term. So this 2 has that invisible 1 right there, so you'd multiply that. So you'd say 2 raised to the 1st power times 3. Then I have times x to the 4th times 3. So then if I simplify that, 2 to the 1st times 3 would become 2 to the 3rd x to the 12th. And then I can simplify that a little bit more because I know 2 to the third is just 8. So it would become 2 to the third x to the 12th. And that would be my final answer. Okay, so let's practice a few more. So now I have 5r to the 7th raised to the 2nd. So I take that whole number out front, that's like 5 to the 1st power, and I multiply it by the number that's outside, and then I say times r raised to the 7th power raised to the 2nd power. So that becomes 5 to the 2nd power, because 1 times 2 is 2, and then r to the 14th. And 5 to the 2nd power is just 25 r to the 14th. Okay, so hopefully this pattern's starting to click with you. It's just like that first rule that we did earlier in this video. Just instead of just being one thing, it's now more than one thing. So in this first one, it was a 5 and an r. In this next one, it's a -4, an s, and a 3. I'm going to distribute that 3 to everything. I'm going to say -4 to the 1st power times 3 times s to the 7th power times 3 times r to the 5th power times 3. Then I simplify each of those. -4 to the 3rd power. And remember, whenever you type your a negative number in raised to an exponent, put parentheses around it. Okay, so -4 raised to the 3rd power, and then s raised to the 21st power, and then r raised to the 15th power. So we have -4 raised to the 3rd power, that's -64. So I'm going to say -64, s to the 21st, r to the 15th. And that is my final answer. I'm all done with that one. All right, then I'm going to move this little box here. All right, and I have 3 x to the -2nd, y to the 4th. So this becomes 3 the 1st times 2 times x to the -2nd times 2, and then y to the 4th times 2. So 3 to the 1st times 2, that's 3 to the 2nd, and then x to the, that becomes a -4, and then y to the 8th. Now, that 3 to the 2nd power becomes a 9. X to the -4th, I don't want that negative exponent to stay negative, so I'm going to turn this into a fraction. I'm going to move that x to the 4th to the denominator. And then y to the 8th, that's already positive, so I'm going to leave y to the 8th up top. And I'm all done with this problem. Okay, so if you have any questions about any of those or are confused in general, please ask for help. I'm happy to help you. This is why I signed up to be a teacher, is to help you through these things, okay? All right, last question for today. Find the area of a square. So let's quickly review. A square would be, I drew that in a really weird spot. I'm sorry. I was looking down. I was focused on my little tablet to try to draw like the perfect square, and didn't see where I was drawing it. All right, so side length 7, a to the 8th, b to the 2nd. But when we find the area of a square, we just multiply 2 sides together, right? And a square has all the same sides. So another way to write it would be 7, a to the 8th, b to the 2nd, squared. So if I do that, I would say 7 to the 1st times 2 times a to the 8th times 2 times b to the 2 times 2. 7 to the 2nd power, a to the 16th, b to the 6th, or 49, a to the 16th, b to the 6th. And that would be my final answer. Okay, so if you have questions about that problem or anything else from the video, please be sure to ask for some help. I am happy to help you. Otherwise, have a fantastic day.